Could you talk a little bit about the Aloha spirit and where it came about, and did the ancient Hawaiians come from the Sirius star system?
The Hawaiians themselves have connections with Lemuria,
Mhm.
and many of them in that sense have different origins, you could say. There's that represent from Cygnus. There are those that represent Procyon. There are those that represent Sirius as well too. So they all have different distinct roots. The tribal culture in that sense, I guess you could say in the earlier times, were much more Cygnan, I would say, part of the Cygnus star constellation. And so their history has been, again, everybody just has different interpretations of how they interpret reality, of how they interpret life. And the Aloha spirit is much more in regards to, I guess you could say, the refugees in regards to beings that would come here to establish colonies, and that each of these particular colonies had their own particular belief systems of how they worshipped or how they functioned in regards to reality. And so that these particular beings were very, very comfortable around the states of nature, to where the extremities of nature were considered to be kind of like the voices of the gods, so to speak, the work of the elements that were in that sense either blessing you or foretelling you to go elsewhere based upon their intensity. And so the Aloha spirit in that sense was much more attuned in regards to the sensible signs and synchronicities that protruded together through nature.
Okay.
So they were very much like nature spirits, connecting very much in regards to listening to the earth and working together and performing sacred dance and ceremony that would be appeasing to the earth in regards to the blessing or to the repelling of their culture in regards to certain actions that they wish to take collectively.
Mm-hmm. And also came from times of Lemuria.
Yes, yeah. Because Hawaii was once part of the Lemurian chain or the Lemurian continent. You have Hawaii, you have Madagascar, you have Australia, you have a certain part of British Columbia, you have California that was once part of Lemurian homeland. And during the great times of separation, much of these lands broke off and separated into different divisions that were once the remnants of the Lemurian culture, based upon several of the different cataclysms that occurred upon that time around the earlier Atlantean ages.
I see. That actually brings me to my next question. Just want to know how Lemuria sank, and was I present during those times? And...
The idea is that yes, you're present. It's hard to say if it was actually present during the disasters, which I don't feel. I feel that there are other areas on the planet that you were part of there. But much of these particular disasters were part of, I guess you could say, Earth cataclysms that were kind of invoked through, I guess you could say, colonial wars that were taking place upon the planet, nowhere near to the extremities of what Atlantis was going through. But again, there were different colonies that had claimancies of land. There was also invaders, I guess you could say, that would come upon the skies, and it would look like fireballs emerging from the skies that would literally, attack land. And this was actually creating the potential for other particular weapons to be developed from other colonies that were kind of similar to the harp weapon as well too, that would literally be able to divide land. And so through many colonial wars, so to speak, this is what caused some particular separations. There were also tribal difficulties. It's kind of like many of what the tribes of like the Native Americans had to experience in the older days prior to the Spanish invasion in regards to territorial wars. So again, this also happens a lot more in other areas of the world, but just on smaller levels in regards to what was happening in those times. It was really a war on claimancy. Who is going to claim the earth? And that many colonies were attempting to do that. But with the great experiment that was being brought forward upon Earth, there was an attempt of unification. And so that the particular races that were not looking to involve themselves in regards to an era of peace were literally banished from the planet. And so this ceased a lot of the wars at the time. But it was during many of these particular wars that caused a great deal of separation in regards to continental drift, so to speak, or separation of land that was once Lemuria, as well as Atlantis, where Atlantis literally became an island and was once a great continent.